It's a Monday episode of Locked On Grizzlies. John Morant makes an appearance in Las Vegas before he makes his trip out to China with Nike. We also have official Cole Anthony buyout and Jaren Jackson Jr. news. Oh, and the Grizzlies had a nice come from behind victory, not too far from behind, but a big blowout win in Vegas to close out their weekend of Summer League basketball. Let's lock in on this Monday edition of Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is I, Joe Mullinax, with you on this Monday installment of Locked On Grizzlies. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. No to Michael Cole, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Tennessee. Closing out his time in the Las Vegas Summer League, I will be with you the next couple of episodes talking Grizzlies basketball here on Locked On Grizzlies. Thank you so much for making us a part of your NBA or Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Make sure you're visiting FanDuel and make sure you are liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing. Wherever you get podcasts, we are proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. It is literally all good. I hope that you are all good as we embark on this 30-minute-ish journey together talking Memphis Grizzlies basketball here on Locked On Grizzlies. And I enjoyed DeMichael's episode, emanating from Summer League out there. That was really cool to see, and it's good to see that so many folks enjoyed that show. DeMichael is amazing. Got a lot of good feedback on social media and the comments on YouTube. Shout out to DeMichael. And I want to say that shout out to DeMichael because not only did he get a chance to obviously watch the Grizzlies Summer League roster in action, and we'll close out our program today talking about the young Bears of Beale Street, but the leader of the Memphis Grizzlies, John Morant, in the flesh there this past weekend to watch the Summer Grizz take part in their Hot Grizz Summer activities. And that is significant for a lot of reasons that we're going to break down here in a moment. Notice how I called John Morant the leader of this organization on the court, at least. And that is important because moving forward now in this new era of Grizzlies basketball, there has to be some change in that leadership dynamic. I would argue over the last several years, ever since Desmond Bane has come into his own as a top 50 or so player in the National Basketball Association, the on-court leader of the Memphis Grizzlies was Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane was that guy because you could count on Desmond Bane when he was on the court to perform. Jaren Jackson Jr. committed silly fouls. Jaren Jackson Jr. would do things that you would not want a player of his caliber to do from time to time, and it would put him in a spot where he could not be the on-court leader. Jaren does an amazing job out in the community. Jaren Jackson Jr. does. And we'll talk more about Jaren, his contract extension, what that means for the Grizzlies moving forward. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. But on the court, Jaren had a lot of success, but he wasn't that stabilizing presence. He wasn't the guy that you look to as the bullets were flying, proverbially, of course, proverbial bullets, and the smoke is rising, and you're looking for a sign in the craziness of stability. Jaren wasn't always there, and we know that Ja has not always been there for a variety of reasons, health-related, non-health-related, and the like. So it was Desmond Bane that was so significant in that particular aspect of this triumvirate that was Des, Ja, and Jaren. And now the triumvirate has become the gruesome twosome or the big two, whatever you want to call these guys. Jaren and Ja are now filling that void. And Ja being there, even if it was just on his way out to China, maybe he had some meetings. And again, they're going to do a big tour for his new Nike shoes over there. Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about that later on this week. Even if it was in the process, right? He's on his way out. It was important for him to make that appearance for a couple of reasons. Number one, somebody has to fill the void that Desmond Bane leaves behind in that regard. And Ja talked about the Desmond Bane trade for the first time, right, to the media that was assembled, including to Michael Cole. Read about it over at the Commercial Appeal if you haven't already done so. He talked about the Desmond Bane trade. He called it a win-win. Said it was good for the Grizzlies, good for Dez. He sees Bane, as a lot of people see Bane, the missing piece for Orlando to potentially make a run in a weakened Eastern Conference in 2025-2026. I agree with that assessment. I think the Magic are going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the East. But he said it was a good trade for both teams, and I think that the reason that he would have felt that way is because he understood that the Grizzlies had to make a pivot. The Grizzlies had to make a change to set themselves up in the long run. If Ja Morant is truly going to be in Memphis moving forward, and he has said that publicly on social media, and we know that Jaren is going to be in Memphis moving forward, that deal was finalized this past weekend. If those are your 2 guys that are max or near max contract players, they have to fill the void left behind by the on-the-court leader, Desmond Bane. And they have to acknowledge that while that is not going to be easy, Desmond Bane did a lot of great things for the Memphis Grizzlies. But Dez being in that place, now Ja stepping up and seeing the need for someone to be there. Not to say that Jaren won't be there, but again, over the last several years, Jaren has missed. Not so much as for injury this past year, but Jaren has missed because of foul trouble. Jaren has missed because he hasn't shown up in certain games. Ja, for the reasons that we already outlined, hasn't been able to be that guy. It was Desmond Bane, even with his own injury problems. But you knew Desmond Bane, when he was there, was going to give you everything he had, and you knew that you could count on Desmond Bane. Can you count on Ja Morant? To me, the message was sent that he's acknowledging that you need to be able to. And that's important for those Summer League guys. That's important for Jalen Wells to see. That's important for G.G. Jackson to see, for Cam Spencer to see in particular, the guys that are going to be on this Grizzlies roster. That matters because they have to believe they have a chance to compete. And the main reason they have that chance is Ja Morant. Ja Morant is that significant to the Grizzlies' hopes this coming season. If you believe that the Grizzlies are a top 6 team in the Western Conference, that has to be because Ja Morant plays more than 65 games, closer to 75 than 65. And you have to believe that it is because Ja Morant has an MVP level campaign. Not saying he's going to win. Top 10 player in the league kind of season. Is Ja Morant capable of that? Absolutely. Does he need to grow his game? Absolutely. And the nice thing is Ja is healthy. He said in his media availability, about 2.5 minutes of it, and he also was on the ESPN broadcast. You could tell he wanted to get out of there very quickly. But he was there for the Summer League Media Blitz, and he talked about how he's in the lab. That is slang. Forgive me for not being cool. But that is modern terminology for saying he's working on his game. Hopefully it's a mid-range jumper. Hopefully it's three-point shooting. Hopefully it's improving his decision-making. The athleticism of Ja Morant is not in question. Ja's ability to take advantage of what opposing defenses give him, that is where the concern lies. But none of that matters unless he's actually on the court. So he was there for the Summer League Grizzlies, and he provided a spark. Tumas Isalo talked about how important it was that Ja was there on Saturday. That helped the Grizzlies. That's important. We can't diminish that. And it's important to not diminish the importance of that Saturday, because several months from now, when Ja Morant has to be the guy for the Grizzlies to compete against the best that the NBA has to offer, those young guys that made up that Summer League team that are going to be end pieces of the rotation, in the case of Jalen Wells, who we'll talk more about later on in the show, a guy that almost certainly is going to be a starter. When you get to that place, you don't just care about Ja Morant because he's an elite athlete. You don't just care about Ja because of the sneakers that he sells or the influence that is starting to shine through in some of these young players. Some of the especially young guys look up to Ja. Ja's going into his, 7th season in the NBA? He's looked up to. But they also made the connection that Ja actually was there for them during something that mattered to them that may not have mattered as much to Ja. That's leadership. That's servant leadership. And that is something that is really building connections that can help chemistry. That level of accountability is important for Morant to hold on to, and I'm hopeful, optimistic, that this is a good first step as they try to fill the void left behind by Desmond Bane in more ways than one. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on X how you're feeling about Ja being there at Summer League. And again, we'll talk more about Ja's upcoming trip to China with Nike later on this week on Locked On Grizzlies, I'm sure. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, Cole Anthony officially bought out. Jaren Jackson Jr. officially extended. What it all means moving forward and what other official things might be coming down the pike. Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Hungryroot. Big fan of Hungryroot. And let's be honest, it's difficult to meal plan and grocery shop. Everybody's busy all the time, right? Plus, you have picky eaters. I know I got a few in my family. You want to eat healthy. A lot's going on. So you have to appreciate what Hungryroot brings to the table. They take the stress out of planning by filling your cart for you with personalized groceries and meal options based on what you like and need. Hungryroot uses their smart cart technology to recommend groceries, recipes, and even supplements tailored to your preferences. Whether you're dairy-free, gluten-free, focused on gut health, or just trying to eat better, Hungryroot's got you covered. If you're extremely busy, you don't have to waste time at the grocery store. You don't have to stress over what's going to be for dinner that night. Hungryroot already figures it out for you. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/lockedonnba and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's hungryroot.com/lockedonnba. Code LOCKEDONNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. That's a heck of a deal. So Jaren Jackson Jr.'s extension was officially announced by the Grizzlies over the weekend, and that obviously came in the wake of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s former teammate now, Cole Anthony, being waived. And the order of that mattered a heck of a lot, right? The order of that mattered a lot because in order for the Grizzlies to complete the renegotiate and extend portion, they had to complete the buyout with Cole Anthony. And I'm sure that Anthony, who is on his way to the Milwaukee Bucks once he clears waivers, I'm sure Anthony wanted to guarantee some things because leverage is hard in this situation, right? Who has command? Who has control in these spots? Cole Anthony knew that the Memphis Grizzlies needed to move on from him or do something else, trade John Konchar, whatever the case might be. They had to do something in order to get this renegotiation and extension completed. The rest of the league knew that too. So if the Grizzlies are trying to complete a trade that involves Cole Anthony, or if the Grizzlies are trying to move on from a John Konchar, even if they try to tag assets like future second-round picks to sweeten the pot, the Grizzlies have been trying to trade John Konchar for years. The NBA is not going to feel bad for Memphis and go, oh, you want your almost all-NBA player under contract for the next several seasons at a better number? That's so bad for you. I wish we could find a way to give you a hand. This is competition. There's 30 teams in the NBA vying for what Oklahoma City, who's trying to repeat, what the Thunder recently did, right? So they're not going to go out of their way to help Memphis if it doesn't help them, in their view, in their pursuit of that endeavor. And Cole Anthony is not dumb. He fully understands that he wants to go to a situation that is most advantageous for him. Because when you're getting bought out of the last year of a contract, when you're getting that stretched and waived and all those sorts of things that we'll talk more about here in a moment, when that is happening to you, an NBA team, one of those 30 that we're talking about, has made the choice that they would rather pay you to play for someone else than have you on their roster at that salary number. Woof. So, not saying that Cole Anthony is in danger of being out of the league, but he has to have a good season and he needs to put himself in a position on the veterans minimum to go somewhere where he's going to get the best opportunity to shine. And where better than next to Giannis in Milwaukee? Where better than with a team that literally just stretched and waved their point guard who blew out his Achilles and Damian Lillard? You know opportunity is going to knock there. Maybe he winds up the starter. Maybe he doesn't. They have Kevin Porter Jr. that they're putting in that role, I believe. But he's going to get playing time with those Bucks. No denying that. And again, he's playing with one of the top 3 to 5 best players in the world in Giannis. That helps a ton too. So Cole is going to be able to be what he needs to be. He saw that as an advantageous situation. If there's no trade lane, if there's no way for Memphis to make that make sense and for the Bucks to give something up in exchange, you got to go the buyout route. And that means that Memphis is likely stretching some of that money over the next several seasons. Now, not quite as bad as what's going to happen with Bradley Beal, right? The Phoenix Suns basically asking for $14 million or so back in that contract so that they can make the buyout make sense for them roster assembly-wise. Not the same as the Dame buyout that we just mentioned. This is a bit of business that you need to do to get to the larger realm of space that you're looking for. The Desmond Bane contract next to Ja's contract, next to Jaren's extension, didn't make sense. It didn't make sense in this CBA era for Memphis as they try to look at their roster and say, we're not close. If we're not close, why are we going to keep the same structure? And as DeMichael and I talked about numerous times, unfortunately, Dez is the contract that made the most sense to move. And it worked out for Memphis in that way. And as we talked about earlier, I think it worked out for Dez too. You're not stretching and waiving a contract the size of Desmond Bane's. And because it's a buyout, you are stretching and waiving a smaller amount of that contract. So Cole Anthony being in that spot, paying for his flexibility essentially to go wherever he sees fit. And Memphis now working in that capped space or that free cap space. That's what got them to a place where they could officially do that extension with Jaren. Because remember, in the renegotiate and extend, you have to have cap space to add money to that last year of that contract. And that's exactly what the Grizzlies did. And it made the extension make more sense financially for Jaren. It's not quite a max deal, but it's pretty close. Not quite a max deal, but it's pretty close for Jaren. And that's about right for his value. If Jaren Jackson Jr. were to hit the free market next year and the Lakers had cap space, see you later, Jaren. The Lakers are throwing the max at you. So the Grizzlies did exactly what the Grizzlies needed to do to make sure that Jaren Jackson Jr. is a part of this process the next several years. And John Morant is, of course, a part of this process the next several years. You've got your two guys. Cole Anthony gets a chance to continue his NBA career and showcase himself next to one of the best players on the planet. Everybody wins. Now for Jaren. The time is here, similar to Ja. Jaren does an amazing job representing the organization off the court, right? Does great work with charity. He's active with the Players Association. He's active in women's sports and trying to increase the platform and exposure of women's sports in our country and in the world. He does so many good things that represent himself and the Grizzlies organization well. The on-the-court product was the best it's ever been this past season. One of the reasons he just got the contract extension that he just got. However, foul trouble, predictability offensively. We've talked about it a ton here on Locked On Grizzlies. If you're an everydayer, you know that my biggest concern with Jaren is similar to the concern with G.G. Jackson. The only difference is a guy is 5 or 6 years older, and that's Jaren. Jaren's offensive skill set is predictable. Trying to get to his left hand, trying to create a certain amount of spin, trying to do something from a certain spot on the court without the capacity to pass out of it enough. Defenses would collapse on him. He would get confused. It was a problem. So the foul trouble and the predictability, that is all stuff that has to continue to get better. These contract extensions can't be the end of this. It has to be the beginning. Jaren has to step up and rise up. The team has made significant choices, trading away a key player in Desmond Bane, waiving and buying out a player in Cole Anthony. That does inhibit some their capacity to do future business. Not as much as a future Beal buyout, not as much as Damian Lillard with the Bucks, but it does matter. They have had to do a certain sequence of events to give Jaren the contract that he has deserved. What are you going to do next? How are you going to help the organization moving forward? That matters a lot in the on-the-court product. John Morant cannot fill that void alone. Jaren is being paid like one of the very best that the NBA has to offer. He has to be that consistently for the Grizzlies moving forward, who have moved and shake a lot of their offseason around keeping Jaren Jackson Jr. in the organization. Let me know on X at Joe Mullinax. Hit me up in the comments. How are you feeling now that that part is complete? Obviously, the next shoes to drop are Santi Aldama's extension, Ty Jerome, who sat with the Grizzlies on Saturday at Summer League. Still no official acknowledgement that Ty Jerome is soon to be a member of the Memphis Grizzlies from the franchise themselves. I'm sure that's coming now that the Jaren extension has been completed. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, closing out this episode with actual basketball. The Grizzlies pull off a nice win over the Portland Trailblazers, Summer Trailblazers. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel. You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned on the beach. You can track FanDuel matchups anywhere with the app. It keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. You can play a same-game parlay, let a bet ride into the ninth inning. FanDuel makes you feel like you are a part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Closing out this episode of the show, talking about the actual Summer Grizzlies, right? Actually winning a basketball game over the Portland Trailblazers. That was good to see. Yeah, we were a little bit nervous there. They had us in the first half, not going to lie. The Trailblazers up by 5 at the end of the first half, but then Memphis wins the second half by a convincing 15 points. You do the math. Memphis wins by 10, 96-86. Really pulling away in the fourth quarter. Portland still had the lead going into the final frame, but a 36-24 final quarter ended things, and Memphis got the victory. Couple of notes. First off, I said this on X, and I'm happy to repeat it here. Jalen Wells, I've seen enough, man. I've seen enough, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not saying that I don't want Jalen Wells to play, and he's going to continue to play because that's what the Grizzlies want. That's what makes him good. That's a major part of why Jalen Wells is what he is, because there's a rising energy among Grizzlies fans online. I've seen some of it in the comments as well. Don't be this person. Don't be the person that says that Jalen Wells can't do anything. That's a huge mistake, because Jalen Wells has been told that for his entire basketball career, I'm sure. He can't do it. When he was at Sonoma State, you think you're going to make the NBA? Ha! Funny. 3 years later, look at this kid. The steal of the 2024 NBA draft, going out and doing big things for the Grizzlies in Summer League. And you say, oh, it's Summer League, Joe. Who cares? He was doing them in the regular season. How soon we forget in this instant gratification world. Our short-term memory is so putrid. Jalen Wells was a first-team all-rookie NBA player this past season. Why in the world would you not count on this kid? We talked about counting on people. You could count on Jalen Wells this past year to defend people that he shouldn't have had to defend, to make shots that he shouldn't have had to make because your stars weren't there or they weren't doing the things necessary. Jalen Wells stepped up to the plate. And yeah, there were flaws. Could have been better in spots. Not the most efficient shooting night. But you know what I love from Jalen Wells? 7 for 8 from the charity stripe. Finding ways to create offensive opportunity even when his shot is not as efficient as you would like it to be. I loved the 7 rebounds. I loved the 3 assists. This is a guy that is having a wonderful summer league. Even if it's not all summer league or stuff like that, you're seeing him be the guy that the Grizzlies need him to be when the season is actually happening. Jalen Wells not being an elite athlete, who gives a damn? Pardon my language. It's irrelevant. He has the size, the frame, and the basketball skill and the mindset. This is somebody that has nothing to prove. He has shown what he's capable of. He has shown it, and yet he wants to ball. He wants to go out there and hoop and play with these other young players and help be a part of the setting the culture under a new coach. setting the intensity, picking up full court defensively, being off the ball in terms of movement, not being just a stationary shooter, developing his game and finding his rhythm within the game itself. That is stuff that carries over when the games actually count. So miss me with this Jalen Wells, I don't know if he's a starter. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Jalen Wells is in a position to take advantage of the gap left by Desmond Bane from a basketball standpoint more than anybody else. That is a massive thing for Memphis, and he is showing that he's capable. Is he going to be perfect every night? No. No NBA player is. No person is that walks this earth. But he is willing to work, to improve, and he wants it. That is a mentality that has been lacking at times from this team the last several years, especially since the suspension of Joe Morant and the lost in the woods over the last couple of years, it feels like. They have a guy in Jalen Wells that has the mentality that they're looking for. If he doesn't play another minute of Summer League, I'm good. I've seen enough. Another guy that I really liked, Armando Bacot. Richmond, stand up. Bacot with a double-double. And everybody wants to talk about Yang Hansen. Pardon for mispronunciation. Everybody wants to talk about Hansen and how great he looks. And yeah, I like his game. I think he's a really good passer for his size. I also think that, in my opinion, he got outplayed by Armando Bacot. Bacot with 12 rebounds. Hansen only had 5 rebounds. Young Hansen only had 5 rebounds. Bacot had 4 blocks, the undersized compared to Yang Hansen. Bacot had 4 blocks. And we've talked about on this show, can Bacot be the third two-way player? If Zion Pullen has his two-way pulled, pun intended, we know that Javon Small is going to be one of those guys that's on the two-way. Meshack seems lined up to be the next guy. Bacot could be the third. They're going to need a big that can eat some of those minutes, especially early in the season with both Jaren and Edey out. If Clark is in foul trouble, if Santi is in foul trouble, they need somebody there. Bacot could be that guy. And obviously Memphis could use that two-way in other ways. They offer it to somebody who's having a great summer league for another team like they did with Jay Huff last year. But I like Bacot. I like his competitiveness. I think you give him an opportunity in that situation. Cam Spencer, another dog that if he doesn't play another minute, I'm good. I think he's going to keep playing. I think he's going to over these last couple of games out in Vegas. But I do believe that is somebody that has shown you what you need to see. And that's the most significant part of Summer League, right? Gigi Jackson has had a good Summer League. Jalen Wells has had a great, in my opinion, Summer League. Gigi, I'm probably being too hard on Gigi because of the facilitation stuff I talk about all the time. I wish he was a better passer, but you could say Gigi is having a great Summer League. He looks like a guy that could be a part of the rotation again. Cam Spencer looks like an end of rotation, start of your bench kind of guy. And those are the guys that you're truly counting on. Javon Small, Meshack, they're probably going to be, well, Small is on a two-way contract. Meshack probably will be. They'll be there some, but not often. Spencer, Gigi, who was sick and didn't play in the Portland game, and Jalen Wells. The backlash to Jalen Wells makes no sense to me. You talk about bullets flying proverbially. I want in a dark proverbial alley where I'm going into a fight. Jalen Wells is a dude and Cam Spencer's a dude that I would love to have by my side. And Gigi Jackson has had a good summer league too. And those are the guys that are actually going to play when the games actually count here in a few months. That matters more than any win or loss in summer league. Although it was nice to see them win and come back in the fourth quarter. No doubt about that. Hit me up on X at Joe Mullinax. Let me know in the comments, how are you feeling about the Grizzlies heading into these last couple of games of Summer League? And that is where we will pick up on our next edition of Locked On Grizzlies, talking about the games that are remaining. Again, hopefully Ty Jerome gets officially signed. Santi Aldama gets his contract officially announced. There's numerous pieces that have to unfurl now with Jaren's extension being finalized. We'll talk about that in the close of Vegas Summer League over the next episode or two of Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you're with us each and every time an episode drops. And thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Locked On Grizzlies, making us your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes are keeping you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, literally anywhere you get a podcast, you can get Locked On Grizzlies. Make DeMichael and I a part of your everyday Memphis Grizzlies and NBA content consumption. Be an everydayer. Hang out with us each and every time an episode drops. We appreciate it. And hopefully you're a little bit smarter and a little bit better when it comes to knowing about the Memphis Grizzlies at the end of our time each and every episode. Until next time, I am Joe Mullinax. Stay locked in. Enjoy the start of your week. And we'll be back with you tomorrow here on Locked On Grizzlies. See ya.